Now let's talk about the letter I. It's an unusual letter. Obviously, it's the simplest one, the skinniest one, the shortest one. But there's one thing in particular that we need to be careful with the capital letter I. You know that in many of these letters, we have an initial curve off to the left at the top of the capital letter, right? If we do that to the letter I, it's going to look way too much like the letter J. People won't be able to tell what it is. So we're going to actually modify this initial curve. Instead of by making it go horizontal for a ways and then down, we make it start going, we truncate it, we shorten it a little bit, make it begin its descent right at the beginning, and then draw the stem of the letter I very close to it. Do you see the difference there? And then the bottom of the I, we kick out a little bit to the left, and that little bit is very important because if we do it too much, it's going to look a lot like a J. So let me show you that again. So we do the curve and then make the stem quite close to the curve. You understand, as opposed to all the other letters, this curve was quite a distance from the stem. With the I, it's quite close, and then just a little bit of a foot out there to the left, and that's a capital I. That's all there is to it. One of the easiest letters there is. Likewise with the lowercase I. Little hook at the top, more or less a straight line, and a little foot at the bottom. Now, the dot on the I is going to be a bit of a challenge with only 2 pencils because all I'm giving you is 2 dots. So let's imagine that that was a pen and those were connected. Let me also say that you see the dot on the I done a couple of different ways. One is the person will do what I just did there. The calligrapher will just put the pen down and leave a perfect slash. Others will move the pen a little bit so they end up with a diamond shape. And I'm going to leave that up to you. I think that's your call, whichever one you like better. The other variation on the I, the dot on the I, is how high do you make it? A lot of people would say it needs to be as high as the top of the capital letters. Other people do it not quite that high. I'll leave that up to you. I'll let you have that decision. Is that all right? Now, what if the letter I is the final letter? Quite simple. Final letter in a line of type. You know it, don't you? Extend the foot off like that. And that's all there is to it. Now let's get down to a little bit more difficult size, because as you get smaller, things get more challenging. Doing the hook and the stem and a little hook at the bottom. Good enough. Top curve, stem, bottom hook. Lowercase I, a curve at each end. If you want to get fussy, this one should perhaps be a little bit longer than the top one. And the dot maybe at the top of the letters, maybe not quite that high. Good enough? Let's do now the dip pen. I open my ink. I always use a piece of paper to train my pen on to make sure that it's functioning just the way I want, to make sure it's releasing the right amount of ink. There we go. So the capital letter I, a curve. Every time I pick up the dip pen, I love the thinness of that line at the top of the curve, which you can't quite get with a felt tip calligraphy pen. There we go. Now you'll notice hopefully, my arm moving when I do this vertical stroke. That's one of the keys to doing calligraphy, is you don't do it all with your fingers. You, especially depending on the size of the calligraphy, you have to move your hand, and you'll get more and more comfortable. So try not to do it all with your fingers like this. Try to get in the habit of moving your whole hand. We can maybe get away with moving just our fingers on the lowercase I, because that's a small enough letter. But even there, my hand slid down ever so slightly. Let's do one more. There you go.
Freeze down.
Good.
Because those
Yep.
Sorry, it wasn't an ideal time to interrupt you.
That's right. There. I'm going to say there you go again.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. There you go. And if this happens to be the final letter in a line of type, then you can add that fancy little swoosh. Swoosh to your heart's content. And you've got the letter I nailed down. Let's keep going.